Hey guys, it's Kevin, my review for the final film in the Small Axe series, of course being Education. So what Education's essentially about is we center on the character of Kingsley Smith, and he is someone who he's in school, and one day he's a little bit rambunctious, and he's actually called into the principal's office, and not only is he, do they really hold him to this, and they're very strict about the way that he goes about things, but they straight up end up transferring him to a pretty much a school for special education, even though there really is nothing mentally wrong with Kingsley as a student. So he's transferred to this school where he's really treated unfairly and feels like he doesn't belong, and this causes his mother as well as a bunch of the other members, a bunch of the other mothers to kind of start a dialogue about racial oppression within the education system and hopefully trying to make a change for their children. So Education overall, I was obviously excited for this film. The Small Axe series has mostly delivered. Alex Wheatle, I wasn't a big fan of, but aside from that, I think all of the other films that Steve McQueen has done in this series, I have at least liked. I think they've at least been very effective films, and when it came to Education, all I really wanted was a really solid final entry, and thankfully, that's exactly what I got. This is a very well done film that's still very effective, but covers another issue that I don't think we've seen, in other films before when it comes to racism, and I think it does it in a very special way. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And I mean, again, I say this every single week, but the cast is easily one of the best things about this movie. McQueen knows how to cast actors, but once again, we just have such a talented ensemble here. Let's first talk about, though, our main actor here in Kenyah Sandy, who plays Kingsley Smith. He is absolutely amazing in this role. This is definitely one of the best child performances that I have seen of the year, and it's mainly because of just how convincing he is as this character. Kingsley is someone that there really is nothing wrong with him. He is a normal, he is a fully functional, healthy, just very inquisitive type student, but constantly he is discriminated against. Constantly people are telling him that he's lesser. They're telling him that he has these sort of mental disabilities, or he has, some sort of condition in that way. And even though he knows he doesn't, and you really do see how this starts to affect Kingsley as a character, and I think that's something that Sandy did a very good job in diving into, but then towards the back half of this film, really diving more into who Kingsley really is. I mean, there's little things we start to learn about him throughout the film, and I just thought he did such a phenomenal job here. So much raw emotion, so much genuine emotion, and it's just one of the most convincing performances that I've seen from a child in a bit. I just really liked what he ended up doing in this film. One scene in particular, in the last 15 minutes of this film, almost had me near tears, and it's mainly because of Sandy's delivery, and I just really love what he ended up doing here overall. And then Sharlene Whyte, who plays Agnes Smith, I thought also was really well done, because she's someone that really does want to help her kid, but she also wants to believe that what the school system is doing is best for her kid, and she kind of starts to believe some of what they're telling her, and I really liked where she ended up going as a character. I thought she had some really incredible moments, just how much she cares about her son, how much she wants something to be done, and I really did like her performance in this film. I thought she did a really strong job. Same with Tamara Lawrance as well, who plays Kingsley's sister Stephanie. This is easily the best performance I've seen from her so far. She's someone that really cares a lot about her brother. She wants something to be done as well, and I really did like her performance in this film. I think she did a really good job. The rest of the cast also is very impressive here. Daniel Francis does a really good job as Kingsley's father, who doesn't really know how to handle this situation, but he's doing the best he can with it. Josette Simon I thought was really good. Even Naomi Ackie, who only pops up for a little bit, I thought was really good here as the character of Hazel. Really, everyone in this film I think does a really good job. As usual, I mean, McQueen really impresses when it comes to ensembles, and that really is no different here. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, because that is the other thing I think this film does very well overall. When it comes to the directing here by Steve McQueen, again, you really just feel that passion throughout this entire film, but you also really do recognize that he's trying to do something a little bit different here. He's covering racism, yes, but he's tackling it in a much different way. He's covering systematic racism, pretty much, and how that erodes through through the education system, and I think he does a really good job with that here. The film feels very important. The film feels very emotional, and again, it's just that passion, man. It's endless. I've said it throughout every single one of these films. Like, McQueen has talked about how, like, this really was, like, a journey for him. He was kind of going through his childhood in a sense, and you just see how important so many of these issues are to him, and I think he does a really good job with that here. But his screenplay as well, I think, is just so well done, especially when it comes to the story of this film, because, like I said, it's tackling a different kind of racism, and it does it very well, I think. I mean, something that we don't see often is just how unfairly, African Americans are, or black people are treated within the education system. Obviously, they're not American, they're British here, but how they're treated within the education system, it's less than stellar. I mean, we see tons of things still today where you have these very average, privileged white people getting into these top schools, and they don't really have to do much for it, but yet you have black people that are fighting really hard for it, and yet they're rejected. And why is that? And that's something that this film really wants to dive into. And obviously, yes, it was the 70s, and there was a different issue going on with what's going on here, but still, it's similar to the sense where someone that deserves a normal education is not getting it, and you're kind of wondering, like, why is this really happening? Why does someone like Kingsley have to be put through this situation when there's clearly nothing that he's doing wrong? He's just a little bit rambunctious, and he's just acting like a normal kid pretty much, but yet the student body and the faculty are so disturbed by what he's doing, and the way they try to gaslight his mother into thinking that there might be something wrong with him as well. I mean, it's really hard to watch at points, and there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that's similar to a lot of Steve McQueen's films is going to disgust you, but it needed to be there. It needed to be there to show just the kind of environment that Kingsley is in. Once he gets to that special education school, it's not that they treat him badly. He just doesn't belong there. He doesn't belong with these other kids because he's not like them. He doesn't have these disabilities that they do. He doesn't have these, learning, he doesn't have a learning problem like they do, and this is something that he realizes throughout the movie, and I thought they did a really good job with that. But he does also try to blend in with some of them. He does try to, get to know some of these kids, and I did like the way that the film tried to dive into that, but also what this meant for his mother, with her slowly kind of realizing just how much of an issue this really is, and her really rallying to do something about it. I think all of that was very well done, and I just really found myself liking the screenplay here. I think McQueen did a very good job with it overall, and I think dialogue-wise, I mean, once again, there's so many good moments in this movie in terms of dialogue, and I think he really just did a great job. But the film also, I think, kind of works as a, final ode to this entire sort of, anthology series. It covers roughly all of the issues that these films have been tackling are present within education, and there's a speech that one of the characters gives that I think kind of sums up this entire thing, the exact point of what McQueen is trying to do with Small Axe, why he decided he couldn't just do it in one film and it needed to be 5. You really do come to understand that in this film, and I thought that was something that just works so well, and it works very well as a final entry to this series for sure, and that's something I definitely really did appreciate. So again, I think the screenplay here is just really great overall. Cinematography wise, once again, this film just does a really good job. It has a real specific look to it. The 70s setting is very well captured, and the school setting as well, I think, is very well done. I definitely did enjoy the cinematography in this film, but also the score as well, I think, is definitely very well implemented here. It's very effective when it needs to be, and I think they do a good job with that. But the other thing the film does do very well is it gets you to know a little bit more about Kingsley. He's someone that is deeply interested in, like, astronomy. He's constantly talking about the planets, and you can see that he really is interested in this stuff, but nobody is giving him that true potential. Nobody is giving him the tools that he needs to really succeed, and it's heartbreaking to watch because you see how much he does care about this stuff. But then you also see students that couldn't give less of a shit about what's going on, and yet they're not the ones that are picked on. They're the ones that are just kind of brushed aside. And again, it just comes down to a systematic racial issue that we just don't see enough of, and I think it's still very much going on today. And I definitely did like seeing that in this film. I think that's something that McQueen covered very well. Getting into the editing here, I do think this film is overall very well paced, but that being said, similar to McQueen's other films, there seems to be an issue when it comes to the length here. The movie is only 63 minutes long. In fact, it is the shortest of the small act entries yet, and I don't think it entirely hinders the film. I think there's enough in there overall, but it definitely needed to be a little bit longer. I think, especially with the second act, I think there needed to be a lot more going on there. It does feel a little rushed in some areas, and I think they could have done a better job with that in the third act overall. And I think that would, in the second act overall, and I think it would have made the film that much better. My only other issues I would say with this film is that the characters that Kingsley comes to meet at his school, they're just not really that well fleshed out. You know, we don't really get to see any of them all that much. We get a couple scenes with him, you know, meeting some of the kids and trying to bond with them, but I just didn't feel there was like enough of that, and I wish there was. I also, Naomi Akkie's character, who I really did like in this movie, just is not really here enough. She is sort of like this ally to Kingsley. She's not a teacher, but she cares very deeply about him. She wants something to be done, and I just wish we got more of her, because I really did like the bond that she has with Kingsley, and I just didn't feel that she ended up being in this film enough. We get enough with his mom, we get enough with his sister for sure, but there just was not enough with Naomi Akkie's character, and I just needed a little bit more with her overall, and I think it would have made the film that much more effective. I do think the way the film wraps up, though, is definitely really good. There's some revelations that are discovered that do work really well, and they didn't feel rushed. It's another one of those things where if they would have added another hour to the film, I think it would have been that much better overall. But that being said, Education is still a very effective final film for Small Axe. It covers racism in a way that we haven't seen before, how it affects the education system. It has an amazing performance from the entire cast, but especially when it comes to Kenyah Sandy, who I think is just such a extraordinary child performer. I love what he ended up doing in this film. It's got great directing from Steve McQueen, and obviously a great screenplay from him and Alastair Siddons. And overall, I think it's just a very satisfying entry to... It's a very satisfying closer to the Small Axe series overall. I definitely really enjoyed this film. I am going to give Education overall a B. It honestly is a real blessing that we were able to get something like this. I think in a year where things have just been so unfortunate and so devastating in terms of entertainment, the fact we were able to get 5 films from Steve McQueen in 2020 and we were able to look forward to them every single year is something that I think we are going to take for granted. It's something that's very special. It's something that only comes once in a lifetime, and the fact we were able to get it here, I just am so grateful for, because I already love Steve McQueen as a director, but this film made me appreciate him that much more. The way he was able to put out 5 films, and 4 of them are really worth watching. I think Alex Wheatle is still good. You know, Alex Wheatle is still, you know, a decent watch overall. It's not a terrible film or anything, but the fact that they were even decent, you know, most of them, I think is really indicative of just how talented of a director he really is and how much he truly is one of the best working today. And this was just such a gift and something that I absolutely loved getting to review for you guys. But that's really it. Small Axe is over. I can't believe it. I really enjoyed this series of films a lot. I think all of them are very much worth watching. Mangrove especially, though, I would very much recommend. Mangrove and Lover's Rock, those are the 2 that are the must-sees, but I think these last 3 are still really well done. No, they weren't as good as those first 2, but still, they were of some quality, and they definitely had that same passion behind them, and they all kind of, you know, told some sort of through line. They all needed to be within this, you know, movie series, and I think that's something that McQueen just did a very good job with. So I very much enjoyed getting to review all of these films for you guys throughout the last couple weeks. But other than that, guys, in my review of Education, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Left your thoughts in it. What did you think of this Small Axe series? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your favorite film in this series? All that kind of stuff. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.